Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose has had his share of feuds over the years. I've covered a handful of them, including with Motley Crue's Vince Neil, and why Faith No More hated touring with Guns N' Roses. The links are down below. But today, I want to talk about the bad blood that existed between Rose and Jesse Hughes of the Pigeons of Death Metal. Back in 2006, Axl Rose was running around with his version of Guns N' Roses and was the only member of the classic lineup still in the group. Rose had yet to release his long-awaited Chinese Democracy album, which by this point had racked up a $14 million tab. But Rose would spend a good chunk of 2006 on the road, and one of the opening acts for the band's tour in America that year was the Pigeons of Death Metal, who were friends with some of the guys in GNR, including bassist Tommy Stinson. Hughes and company would join GNR for what was planned to be a 3-week tour across the states, and Pigeons of Death Metal at the time were supporting their second album, Death by Sexy. The opening night of the trek with Guns N' Roses would kick off in Cleveland at the Quicken Loans Arena. According to news reports at the time, Hughes' band received a chilly reception from the crowd. It was during Guns N' Roses' set that Rose reportedly told the audience, and I quote, "So how'd you like the Pigeons of Shit Metal? Don't worry, that's the last show they're playing with us." It was following the show Hughes would speak to New Musical Express saying he was, and I quote, "shocked by the decision," adding, "Axl Rose is out of his mind. He wasn't even there when we played. He got there about 30 minutes after we got done playing. He waltzed onto stage and went nuts. He had a couple of fans thrown out for pissing him off. Then when he called us the Pigeons of Shit Metal, Tommy Stinson, their bass player, took his bass off and goes, 'F you, that's it.' And then he threw his bass down. But then Axl picked up his bass and threw it at him, dude. It was a circus up there." Hughes would add that Rose's announcement would create problems within Guns N' Roses camp, adding, "It was a total mutiny on the part of his band and everyone. I could hear screaming in the dressing room, 'Those are our friends and you've insulted our friends.'" Hughes would disagree with initial news reports that his band was thrown off the tour due to a poor reception from the crowd. While he agreed the band did get booed at the beginning of their set, they eventually won over the audience. However, several people who claimed to be in attendance at the show claimed that the crowd hated the Pigeons of Death Metal, and the crowd was openly hostile to the band during their entire set. After the news media started publishing reports of what transpired in Cleveland, Hughes provided an update of what happened behind the scenes, revealing that he got a call from Guns N' Roses management the next day, apologizing as Axl thought the label had pushed the band onto their tour, and said that they were welcome to finish the tour if they wanted to. But Hughes, for his part, would tell GNR's management where they could go, and opted to not keep touring with Rose and company. Years later, in 2008, Hughes talked to the Montreal Mirror and singled out Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich and Axl Rose as two of the unfriendliest guys in rock and roll. He would tell the publication, and I quote, "Like any other Guns N' Roses fan, I find Axl to be really insulting. He cost a lot of people their jobs, a lot of heartache, and probably some mental breakdowns while he messed around on a record for 16 years just because he wanted to be a dick. I firmly believe the gods of rock and roll just chose me to kick him out of the gang for gross misuse of power. Axl still has the opportunity to do something that no one expects him to do, which is something cool. I honestly think he can do it, but first, he really needs to control himself a bit. Most importantly, get a real friend." In the years that followed, Hughes would slam Rose in the press, and in 2015, he took issue with Rose calling himself Guns N' Roses without the other classic members. He would reveal that each Christmas since being fired from the Guns N' Roses tour, he sends Rose a simple request, telling brave words, "You know what, man, every year since Axl Rose fired us from the tour, I've sent him a very sincere request around Christmas time, inviting him to come into the studio and record 2 Christmas songs and be released as the Pigeons of Shit Metal. And I always close it with a very judgmental, because I want you to know, Axl, I'm willing to forgive you, and I feel the rest of the world is too." Fun fact, guys, the Pigeons of Death Metal would cover the Guns N' Roses tune "It's So Easy" from Appetite for Destruction. It's up on YouTube if you guys want to check it out, but I'm going to warn you, it's a pretty horrible cover. That does it for today's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. We'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.